Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. We almost didn't make it. We had a major technological collapse. But our friend Bob Mack, who's one of the great engineers of all time, Westwood One, came to the rescue. So we want to thank our friend Bob and everybody else who worked with him, Christian, Rich, the whole gang. Before we jump into stuff, and there's a lot to jump into, from time to time, actually many times, I like to provide a sort of an intellectual, or what's a better way, a context for things that are going on, that I think about, that I write notes to myself, typically throughout the weekend. And that gives, I think, more insight into what's taking place in this country right now. And one of the things is that, hold on, let's see here. The district court's not lack merit of appointments throughout the special counsel brief. Okay, that's their brief in an appeal. I'm not worried about that. We'll deal with that later. I thought it may be a court decision. All right. In any event, I think it's important because I get questions here. I get questions when I bump into people that always start with the word why. Why? Why don't people see what we see? Why do people think this way? Why do people vote this way? And the word why is the word that draws the attention of philosophers, scholars, intellectuals. That is, to try and figure out why. Or just people who are intrigued, people who are conscientious. Why? Why? So, all last night and this morning, I was thinking to myself, among other things, this Democrat convention, where they talk about this word freedom, and yet the whole convention was largely about identity politics. The speakers were largely chosen because of their identities. The speakers were largely chosen because what they said about race, what they said about sexuality. Almost all of them talked about race. Why? Why is that? Why is the Democrat Party so focused on groupism, on fraternity? You and I, we're focused on individuality, a colorblind society. That's what liberty means to us. You look at the Declaration of Independence, what does it talk about? There's not a word in there about race. It's about natural law. Natural rights, God-given. God-given to each individual. Unalienable rights, not given to groups based on physical features or their faith or whatever it is. Unalienable rights given to each human being. Each human being has their own value, their own worth. But the Democrat Party doesn't see things that way. In fact, there's organizations that represent different ethnic groups, different racial groups, different religious groups. They don't see things that way either. What's going on? This is very important to understand. I know it's not typical talk radio, but it is typical Mark Levin talk radio. You and I talk about individual liberty, the Constitution, free will, the importance of separation of power so there's not a concentration of centralized power. The importance of representative government, not little d democracy, so you don't have mobocracy. You don't have mobocracy, so people can't vote by majority to destroy your unalienable rights. The Constitution is a magnificent balance in order to protect the individual. Government doesn't exist to get more powerful, to get more centralized, to rejigger society or to re-engineer the human person. Government exists to protect the civil society, the social contract. Stick with me. We're more concerned about the protection of the individual, free will, unalienable rights, than the Democrat Party, or even more than the left. Why is that? Why is that? Within the Democrat Party has constructed a political environment that is based on putting people into groups and then trying to unite those groups, whether it's an economic group, a racial group, an ethnic group, whatever it is. Group identity. Now, I don't think they do this because they're particularly scholarly or they're particularly brilliant. I think they do this because it works for them. But I'm going to go below surface level. Why does it work for them? Why does it work for them? It seems that so many of the people at that convention, speaking at that convention, and so many people that we know who identify as Democrats or leftists, they don't talk about individual liberty. In fact, they attack the constitutional construct. They attack the American federal. Well, what is it? What is it that demands their loyalty, that draws their attention? They're even willing to accept levels of authoritarianism and paternalism that you and I are not. Why? Why? Why are they willing to surrender their individualism? CRT rather than a colorblind society. I think I got this figured out. You and I find our security in individualism. You and I want the freedom to use our labor, intellectual and physical labor, in ways that make us feel successful, accomplished, motivated. as an individual. We contribute to society. Don't get me wrong. We want to be able to do what we need to be able to do to fulfill our lives and to fulfill our responsibilities to our family. To our family. And in order to do that, we understand the importance of a constitutional system, of a representative system, of free will, of individual liberty, of treating people based on merit and substance, not based on physicality or faith or whatever it is that they're associated with. Not true on the other side. Not true on the left. Not true with the Democrat Party, the political vessel through which they operate. It's group identity. Group identity is where many people, even in this country, feel safe, feel secure. Group identity is how they interpret liberty. It's not really liberty, but that's how they interpret it. The power of their group. The power of their group. Liberty is redefined, wrongly, are believed to be a group power. There's power in group. Black power is an example. And so, individual liberty is not as important as group power. Am I making sense, Mr. Producer? The higher form of attachment is to the group, whatever group you identify with. You don't feel secure as an individual. You feel secure as part of a group that has power. That, I think, is the crux of the matter. You have an identity, not as an individual. Look, maybe you're not doing so great on the job. Maybe you have issues. Maybe you don't have issues. Maybe you've been mistreated. So you feel power and identity and even a perverse form of liberty as part of a group. Even if that group, even if the Democrat Party is denying you of individual liberties, is centralizing decision-making in Washington, D.C., with politicians and bureaucrats you don't even know, many you may not even like. But you feel more secure. You actually feel free in a bizarre way with the less freedom that you have and the less freedom that the guy across the street has. And so you have a much higher tolerance for paternalism, a much higher tolerance for authoritarianism. It's okay if they destroy separation of powers. That doesn't mean anything to you. It's okay if they destroy the independence of the Supreme Court. It's okay if the government hands out health care, if the government sets prices and so forth and so on. You're part of the group. And you have a high level of tolerance for group decision making because the group is your security. The group is your perverse view of freedom. So I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. Doesn't matter what she thinks. Doesn't matter what she says. Doesn't matter what she believes. She's part of the group. And the Democrat Party knows it. So what do they tout? Do they tout her policies? No. Do they tout her substance? No. Do they tout her experience? No. They tout that she's the first black woman nominee of a party and would be the first black woman president. And so, if you're of this mindset, that's enough. I don't need to know where she stands on the border. I don't care. She's going to protect my group. And by that, by the way, I don't just mean black or female. I mean Democrat. my group is going to be empowered. The Democrat Party, I'm going to be empowered as a Democrat. I'm going to be empowered as a woman. I'm going to be empowered as an African American. All or part of it or something like that. I don't think that way. I don't think that way. I look at Bernie Sanders, he's Jewish, I say, what an a-hole that guy is. Complete jerk. Many Republicans, I say the same thing. That guy's a jerk. I don't care. I'm not supporting that guy. Mitt Romney, he's a loser. Whatever. So it appears to me that half or close to half of the country has a perverse view of liberty. That they view liberty as group power, as identity power, as power in numbers. They don't view liberty as a matter of individualism or free will. They don't much care. People who believe in groups and the Constitution and the founding doesn't really matter. Because liberty is redefined as a belief in the power of the group, the identity of the group. Look at Hamas that gets elected by the Palestinians, brutalizes their own people, kills them, starves them. But it's the group. It's the group. More when I return. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. This describes really the difference between really any type of authoritarianism and a constitutional capitalist republic. Marxism. You divide it into economic categories. The bourgeoisie, the proletariat, that is the manager's class or ownership class, and the workers. Marxism doesn't tolerate free will. It doesn't tolerate individualism. That ideology kind of started with Rousseau and Hegel. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but Marxism kind of crystallized it in his own way. Capitalism is the converse of that. That is, as an individual, you can achieve whatever you seek to achieve. Doesn't mean it's going to be handed to you, but you will have free will based on merit, based on success. So you can see these two belief systems in our own politics today. One ultimately leads to authoritarianism, and that is the Democrat Party and what it preaches and the support it gets. And conversely, not all Republicans, but conservative constitutional Republicans and what we promote. More when I return. This is Mark Levin with an urgent message. We are living in grave and dark economic times that are going to get worse. We just saw an abysmal jobs report while unemployment shot up to the highest level since the end of 2021. Meanwhile, the stock market looks like a gamble. Many banks are getting crushed as recession fears mount. The S&P Banks Index fell 2.4% in a single day. That's a lot. Regional banks fell nearly 3%. That's even more. These are bad signs. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts. You need to protect your wealth. That's where diversification and gold comes in. It's been a bedrock of wealth preservation for centuries. And the best company I know of is Advantage Gold. Their experts can help you protect your savings from economic chaos. Call now, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Call now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, the voice liberals fear most. And you can call Mark at 877-381-3811.
Now, the danger in this perverse idea of liberty is every dictatorship, whatever form, whatever ideology, has embraced it. They've exploited groupthink. They've exploited the whole notion of a quote-unquote commune or community. You have to destroy individual liberty and free will. You have to destroy natural rights and natural law. In other words, you have to shred the Declaration of Independence, even though most countries don't have one, in order to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. That's where Kamala Harris comes in. Kamala Harris is a coward. Kamala Harris knows exactly what she's going to do should she win the presidency. She's going to destroy this country. She's going to destroy the traditional notion of liberty, free will, individualism, and the economic system that undergirds it all, free market capitalism. She will centralize power. She's already told Senator Whitehouse, he's already said, and this is today, that she and he agree that they need to pack the Supreme Court. He's already said that today. The Constitution means nothing to her unless it could be used to her advantage. And not just her, by her political party and the ideologues that populate it. She knows that the Democrat Party base won't care because group identity is what they've been taught and they've learned over the course of 125 years. Security comes from the group. Power comes from the group. And that's how they define their liberty. Not you and I. Not the framers of the Constitution. Not the 1776 revolutionaries and founders. Kamala Harris is a Marxist. She's an American Marxist. Marxism comes in different forms, but the core is the same thing. That's why when she put out her economic program, she realized that was a mistake. 25% wealth tax. A wealth tax is a tax on your ownership, whatever you own. And the tax is so confiscatory, it is so burdensome that you will lose your property. That's the way to nationalize private property. She talked about price gauging. She meant gouging. As an excuse for the government to set prices on food. The government controls the supply of food. The government controls you. Because you can't live without food. After 3 days, panic sets in. She and her party learned from the pandemic of 2020. Not just theoretically, but as reality. If you control the food shelves, you control the people. They will stand where you tell them to stand. They will go where you tell them to go. They won't go where you tell them not to go. You'll even be able to shut down their churches and their synagogues and their mosques. The iron fist. She understands that. Kamala Harris also understands that only about 40 or 45% of the American people embrace this notion of power of belonging, of liberty. It's not enough to win an election. So she's shown enough ankle to her party base and her party regulars and her party activists. She's shown enough ankle to different groups within their coalition. Minority groups, ethnic groups, females, and so forth. But it can't get her over the 50% mark. And so she's going to reveal as little of this as possible. Because those of us who do believe in real liberty and free will and individualism, those of us who do believe in natural law that gives us natural rights that comes from God, those of us who do believe in individual unalienable rights, no matter who we are, no matter our background, no matter our color, our faith, our sex, whatever, we won't buy it. And she knows that there's 5% of the American people, 10% of the American people who would be persuaded by you and me, not by her. And so she's running the biggest scam of any presidential election. She's the most radical candidate to ever run for president of the United States. She is a true red American Marxist. That's what she is. Open borders. Defund the police. Defund ICE. Aliens, illegal or otherwise, immediately in the welfare state. Change the voting system, as they say, quote unquote, reshape the electorate. Destroy the independence of the Supreme Court. Destroy separation of powers. Use the power of government to go after your political opponents. Destroy the entire nature of the United States Senate by eliminating the filibuster rules so you can ram through everything you want, making it impossible to undo it in the next election. Expand the massive administrative state, which is an appendage of the Democrat Party. Raise taxes on businesses. Raise taxes on individuals. That's how you steal more and more liberty and empower the state. That's who she is. These are her positions. Brainwash your children. CRT. Impose radical ideology in every corner of society. DEI. Force corporations to adopt DEI. Call it ESG. That's who she is. That's what she believes. Reparations. In order to maintain the separation, in order to maintain historical distinctions, no matter all the achievements and progress that have been made over the last 150 years. You must keep the scabs bleeding. Keep working the group identification. Keep working the angle of the proletariat, the little guy, against the system. When you are the system, when you want to empower the system, when you want to give the iron fist to the system and centralize the system, but run against the system. And all that which is intended to protect the individual is to be destroyed. Change the voting system the way they did in California so Republicans can't win. There'll be an opposition party, but they won't matter. So you have the pretext to tyranny with the pretense of democracy. Oh, well, there's another party. We won fair and square. Early voting, late voting. Drop boxes, no signature, no date, no envelope. Voter harvesting. Illegal aliens on voter rolls. Illegal aliens voting. No voter ID. We had a fair and free election. What are you, an insurrectionist? Now we need to change the debate. Trump agreed to a debate with Biden. Kamala Harris wasn't just standing by while Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi executed a coup against Biden. She was in on it. She led it. She benefited from it. Don't be foolish. Don't listen to these phony brainiacs on TV who think they know what took place, or the misleading propaganda leaked to the media. It wasn't Obama. It wasn't Pelosi. They were in on it. It was Kamala Harris. She did it. Without a single vote, she's the Democrat presidential nominee. Now she wants to change the debate. First, she won't reveal herself. Now everybody's sitting on the edge of their chair. Oh, she promised us she would do an interview this week. What is she, Khomeini? Putin? Xi? Un? Oh, thank you. She will deign to do an interview. Oh, and I'm sure it'll be brutal. Wow. Then she's met her obligation, you see, to the voter. Donald Trump said, let's do a debate every week. Let's at least do 3 debates. Let's have Fox, CBS, ABC. No, we're not going to do Fox, she says. ABC, you have seen now with John Carl. You saw the journalist at the National Black Journalism event. You see George Stephanopoulos. I think ABC has become the worst among the worst of the networks. And so you know that won't be a fair debate. On top of that, she's now demanding open mics, whereas Biden demanded closed mics when the other candidate is speaking. So apparently it's Donald Trump's job to accommodate their candidates. First Biden and now Kamala Harris. Why? Why? Because Kamala is not about substance. Kamala is about fiction, drama, appearance. So what will she do? Don't interrupt me. That's her big line. I'm not finished. Challenge him on the open mic. Play the system. Control the system. That's the plan. Then the government, Pravda, Al Jazeera, American media. Not a free press. The state-run press, which I wrote about an unfreedom of the press. Other people now use these phrases, and it's good they do. It's important that they do. They will play their role. And their role is as a Praetorian Guard to protect her and as a hit squad to go after Trump. Just as they dragged Biden across the finish line, and then when they saw the American people weren't going to accept him, threw him over the roof, threw him off the roof. They're doing the same for Kamala. Protect her from herself. What you are witnessing, America, is totalitarianism. A political party, the Democrat Party, that does not believe in little d democracy, let alone constitutional republicanism. They're manipulating the population. They're propagandizing. They're brainwashing. That is what they are doing, and you're right in the middle of it. You get stressed because your monthly income just doesn't seem to cover the bills anymore? Well, you're not alone. Most Americans feel this way every day. Everything is still ridiculously expensive. And so many of us are reaching more and more for credit cards to cover the basics like food, clothing, school supplies, energy bills, power. It's very difficult. I see it. If you're feeling this way, please call my friends at American Financing. They can help you. If you own a home, they can help you. Because they're helping hardworking Americans just like you, and they have been for 25 years, to tap into their home's equity and to pay off their high interest debt and even create some additional savings so you can be ready for whatever life throws your way. With interest rates dropping, a company like American Financing can get rid of your 35% credit card debt and replace with 6.5%, 7% the going rate. And you can deduct up to $10,000 in interest. You can't do that with your credit card, ladies and gentlemen. And they're saving homeowners almost $900 a month on average. That's a lot of money. So waiting is not an option. Call them today. You may delay 2 mortgage payments. Here's their number, 888-900-1828, 888-900-1828, 888-900-1828, or visit AmericanFinancing.net.
NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Got a lot to get into this evening. And, I'm honored to be here with you. I'm honored to have this opportunity to talk to you all over the country. And it's something that I think is very, very important so people understand what's taking place in their own country and how crucial this election is. Right up to Election Day, we're going to be battling this, America. So stick with us. And I want to encourage you one more time. Well, one more time today. I'll do it every day. Please have in your back pocket our podcast. You can find us. It's very, very easy. Go to marklevinshow.com. That is the key. That's the mothership website I've had for 20-some years. marklevinshow.com. Click on Audio Rewind at the top and pick your favorite podcast platform. Or you can go to your favorite podcast platform and search for Mark Levin Show. Either way, it's absolutely free. The podcast is always free. We have another way. We have our own YouTube channel. You can find all my full podcasts, this show, interviews, specials on YouTube. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. Now, when I talk about podcast, I'm talking about this show. The podcast version of this show is tighter and doesn't have these sponsors on radio. They have podcast sponsors. But for those of you who are on the run, those of you who maybe you don't have access to a radio or whatever, you can listen to the podcast. Those of you who do have access to the radio, whether it's at the dinner table, whether it's in your car, whether it's at the beach, we're there too. But you will always be able to hear us, but it's always important to download that. Be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Tomorrow, I'll be going to Mar-a-Lago and interviewing President Trump. for Saturday and Sunday's Life, Liberty, and Levin. And they asked me if I would come and do that. There's also a surprise involved there. And, of course, I'm more than happy to do it. I try not to bother him. I know he's busy. But I haven't actually seen him in a while. We do talk from time to time, but I have not seen him, so I look forward to it. And, well, it should be great. Saturday and Sunday, the program will run. It'll be Labor Day weekend this weekend. And so we look forward to that. You know what? There's a lot of issues here I want to discuss, but before I do, I want to give you an example of something. This kind of strikes home, but I think it has a national sort of veneer to it. Let me read this to you. State Park Golf Course Plan Draws Protesters. This is a little newspaper called the Stuart News in Stuart, Florida. It's the east coast of Florida. It's a beautiful area. I live near Stuart, Florida. There's Hope Sound, there's Tequesta, there's Jupiter. Just beautiful towns, Republican. Very Republican. Martin County, part of Palm Beach County, the northern part of Palm Beach County, and so forth. There is this beautiful, large state park, not private property, but a state park that's been a state park a long time. It's called the Jonathan Dickinson Park. Jonathan Dickinson Park. People like to go there to hike. They have different races there. They like to ride their bikes in there. They like to fish in there. Or just walk in there. There's an area where people can take their RVs. It's really fantastic. It's a large park. And all around this area, there's a ton of developing going on, as you can imagine. The area where I live, billionaires are pouring into this area from New York, from Illinois, from California. I can't say I blame them. And they're buying properties, and they're building these estates, and they're driving up the property taxes through the roof. My property tax is through the roof. But it's a no income tax state. Now, in this state, particularly in this area, there are golf courses everywhere. Public golf courses, private golf courses. They're everywhere. In fact, I feel like there's one golf course per golfer out there. I'm joking, but there's a lot of them. So why would you propose putting 3 golf courses in the Jonathan Dickinson State Park? Here's the story. You ready for this? Jessica Namath remembers being a little girl on horseback, clopping along the sandy trails that cut through the scrubland of Jonathan Dickinson State Park almost 35 years ago. It's been a state park forever. She grew up on the Loxahatchee River, a natural vein that threads the park with the Atlantic, and one of only 2 national wild and scenic rivers in the state of Florida. Now, Namath has seen Jonathan Dickinson through all its seasons, and she's wended her kayak. Hold on, I got to turn the page. Let's see, 6A with my bad eyesight right now. There it is. Every bend of the river. Namath was also an outspoken voice against those who wanted to tear up the park's natural foliage to make way for a golf course. Actually, more than one. With blessings from then-Governor Rick Scott back in 2011. Well, they blocked it, apparently. Now, Namath is gathering her strength and the collective strength of her thousands and thousands of overnight followers to oppose another plan. This time, a proposal to clear 1,000 acres of rare scrub habitat to build 3 golf courses. Not 1, but 3. This is a state park. If it were private property, I wouldn't give a damn. I really wouldn't. You know, the guy next to me wants to build a new house. You know what I told him? Just move your damn palm trees. They're dropping all the coconuts on my driveway, and you're not cutting the coconuts. Just move some. And he did, and he's building his house. That's his property. He'll do what he wants. But this is a state park. It's not just a critical habitat to many species, but a critical area for a lot of people. Namath said the park has long been used by people as a staple for our mental health, dating back to indigenous communities. I'm telling you, it's a very old park. I don't use the park. This isn't about environmentalism. It's not about the Green New Deal. It's not about any of that. The hell do you need to put golf courses in a state park? And by the way, down the road is a golf course. I believe it's been built by Michael Jordan or somebody. A massive golf course. I think the fee to get in there is like $1 million. Then next to that, there's a public golf course. Then you go down A1A, I guess it is, about 2 miles. There's another public golf course. On the left, to the right, there's a private golf course. There are golf courses all over here. Just pointing it out. There's one state park. And so Namath, along with more than 100 other people, gathered outside the entrance of Jonathan Dickinson on Saturday morning to protest the proposal. Dozens of cars hugged the side of Southeast Federal Highway. That's what it is, Federal Highway. Priuses plus Ford F-150s and gangs of mountain bikers came together under the merciless sun. It was hot, it was raining, but there they were. When the development plans were leaked by the state government last week, leaked by a state government official last week, in other words, nobody had a part in this process. Namath immediately jumped into the fight. She started the Facebook group, Protect Jonathan Dickinson State Park, on August 19. Has since gained more than 40,000 followers. They have 70,000 signatures. Here's the thing, without getting into it. The people in this community, they're not protesters. They're not greenies. They're hardworking people. The vast majority are Republicans. They go to this state park, usually on the weekend. It's a state park that's been there decades and decades. There's development all around it. Development everywhere. This population is significantly increased. That's the way it works. It's called private property. But there's no right to build golf courses in the state park. The state park is a public park. So why are they building golf courses, 3 golf courses in the public park? In a state that has probably more golf courses than any state in the union. In an area that has so many golf courses, I wouldn't even know where to start counting them. Now, I used to play some golf. I don't anymore since a disc in my back blew up. I just can't swing a club anymore. But that said, I'm not against golfers. Have a grand old time. What do I care? I don't mind going to a range now and then and trying to pop a few balls here and there. I'm happy. My lawyer, great guy. He's a golfer. Who cares? But why would you do this in this particular state park? Who's behind this? I don't even know. Why is the public informed about their state park from a leak by a bureaucrat? It's just weird. It's bizarre. Jonathan Dickinson Park. So tomorrow night, there's supposed to be a big meeting in Stuart, Florida. Stuart's a beautiful town. I like it a lot. I like it a ton. Surely it can't be for tax reasons, because Martin County has been massively increasing property taxes since I've lived here for 10 years. My property taxes have more than doubled in 10 years. I'm not whining about it, but it's a lot, the vast majority of which goes to the schools. And we're always told the underpaid teachers. Well, the teachers here are not underpaid. Not in my view, that's for sure. But that's beside the point. You don't take a state park where you have a zillion golf courses surrounding it and then take a big chunk of it and build 3 golf courses for what is, to be honest, a very small fraction of the community. Because these golfers already have public courses or already belong to private clubs. It's not like there's lines and lines and lines of people waiting to play golf around here. Somebody has decided that they have their own interest in putting not 1, not 2, but 3 golf courses in the state park. Jonathan Dickinson State Park. So to me, this is an ideological issue. It's not a private property right issue. It's not even a federal park issue where the feds own all this land. This is a state park that has been here forever. And as the development just keeps moving up the road, moving up, heading further and further north, which is gobbling up and gobbling up and gobbling up more and more of the land. The developers develop and then they leave. I saw this in Northern Virginia. They develop and then they leave, and everybody has to figure out how to build a 4-lane highway, a 6-lane highway where there used to be 2, and so forth and so on. Okay, got it. That's progress, quote unquote. But why don't you leave the damn state park alone? There's plenty of land. If some entrepreneur wants to build another golf course, then let them build the golf course. If they want to start another country club, then let them build the country club. But not in the state park. And no, I'm not some liberal, I'm not some greenie. No, I'm a conservative. And I've always been a conservative. I'm not opposed to development. I'm not opposed to golf courses. But I will not support the state building state-run golf courses in a state park that has been the state park for decades and decades and decades and decades. With all the development and construction around it, with all the golf courses around it, with all the golfers around it? No. Why not put tennis courts in there? What are you putting golf courses? Put tennis courses in there. Baseball fields, football fields, do that. Why not? While you're there, put a 7-Eleven. Even though they're about every 12 feet here, go ahead, put a 7-Eleven. What's so special about a golf course? I'm being quite honest. What's so special about taking this park and putting in golf courses? And what's so special about a golf course? So they had to move the venue for tomorrow night, Tuesday night, for this meeting of the citizenry in Martin County. And as I say, part northern Palm Beach County. And I went to look where it is, and I don't know. So the local people will have to look themselves. But I'm bringing this up not because of my self-interest. I don't even go to the park. I don't play golf. I don't go to the park. I'm perfectly happy where I am. But the idea of taking a park with the creeks, a park with the RVs where people can stay, a park where people hike and do that sort of thing, and building 3 golf courses in an area that has a zillion golf courses is obviously the decision of some politicians and bureaucrats, and it's got to be one of the dumbest ideas ever. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. All right, let's move on. America. When you hear a Democrat, or worse, on radio or TV say Israel has a right to defend itself, that's an enemy. Israel has a right to victory. Victory. Not merely to defend itself, but to defeat the enemy. After 9/11, if a country said you have a right to defend yourself, it depends how you defend yourself. After Pearl Harbor, you can go down the list. This is disguised talk. Let me be clear. Kamala Harris is an Islamist. Kamala Harris is an Islamist. She's never supported Israel. I've gone through her record. She gives a speech now and then saying she supports it, saying they have a right to defend themselves. But she has never, ever lifted a finger to support the country of Israel. She is sending signals to the Hitler Youth, to the River to the Sea crowd, to the Islamists in Dearborn, Michigan. I've got your back. They go into meetings with her and they leave very happy, very satisfied. What is she telling them? What is she telling them? She's telling them something she won't tell us. Her meetings are secret. Why are her meetings secret? The fact of the matter is she does not support Israel. And she's never demonstrated that she supports Israel. Now, they pretend that they do, but they hate Netanyahu. Why do they hate Netanyahu? Because he's a great leader of Israel. Because he refuses to surrender the way Harris and Biden surrendered to the Taliban and got our men and women killed, in addition to other men and women killed. They have American hostages. They have American supporting Afghan hostages. Israel says, no, we saw what you did. We can't do that here. I want to continue because I want to make it abundantly clear. Kamala Harris is an Islamist, just as she's a Marxist. She is a radical out of San Francisco. I'll be right back. I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
The establishment's worst nightmare. Mark Levin. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
I said Kamala Harris is an Islamist. She doesn't defend Israel. She'll give a speech now and then, just enough for her donors, just enough for her Democrat Party voters. Israel has a right to defend itself. Yay! Yay! What, Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself is the opposite position. That is just a crap sandwich. Of course, Israel has a right to defend itself, and Israel is going to defend itself. But Israel has a right to victory, to defeat and destroy terrorists. Not just to defend itself. It has a right to go on offense. Now, Saturday, Hezbollah, which is Iran, which destroyed a fantastic country, Lebanon, where Christians and Muslims and Jews were living side by side, which was a country, Lebanon, an advanced Western country, Beirut, which was considered also one of the most beautiful cities literally in the world. Well, Lebanon was taken over by Iran and the Islamists. They assassinated at the time the Christian president. Even though the government is technically separate, it has a gun to its head. It objects to what Hezbollah has been doing with Israel. It doesn't want a war. But Iran has conquered, effectively, control over Lebanon. Yemen was a relatively peaceful country, a Muslim country. Iran supported terrorists called the Houthis, another Iranian militia. Armed it to the teeth. It just sunk a Greek oil freighter. And we have 2 aircraft carrier groups, and we did nothing about it. Nothing. Iran has effectively taken over Iraq, where some of you fought, some of your family fought, some died, some lost limbs. So Iran controls Iraq, Iran controls Yemen, Iran controls Lebanon, Iran controls Gaza, Iran's in alliance with Syria. And Kamala Harris says Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel is surrounded by hundreds of millions of Arabs with hundreds of thousands of missiles. And she wants Israel to surrender eastern Israel, that is Judea and Samaria, their ancient homeland, to the Palestinians, who as a group are not peaceful, who as a group voted for Hamas, who as a group still support October 7th. Let's stop playing games. Which is why I started this program off about group identity rather than individual liberty. Because tyranny, dictatorships, Marxist regimes, genocidal autocracies, people will identify with like kind, even if at times it destroys their own liberty. And we see this all over the world. We certainly see it with the Palestinians. Abbas, who Harris and Biden and Blinken want to turn over this new territory, gave a speech the other day attacking the United States in Arabic, attacking us in the most evil terms possible. Go to memri.org, MEMRI.org. The Islamists are well aware of it. The River to the Sea crowd, the Hitler Youth, they're well aware of it. They don't like it. I love it. MEMRI.org. They stay out of domestic politics. I love it. We've never had somebody run for president who's been as anti-Israel as Kamala Harris. Never, ever. You know who's a big supporter of Israel? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? That's right. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. His father was assassinated by Sirhan, a Palestinian. Robert Kennedy, Sr. We've never had a president like Donald Trump who's as supportive of Israel. Perhaps Nixon? So you really have a contrast here between Trump and Harris. I've heard it said from some of these so-called isolationists who use this word neocon as Robert Kennedy does. Neocon historically has meant these, not exclusively, but mostly intellectual Jews who were Democrats, sort of FDR Democrats, Harry Truman Democrats who switched to Reagan. I don't believe Robert Kennedy is aware of that, but the anti-Semites are. Who go around saying things like, why don't we worry about our own defense? Why are we worried about Israel? You know, ladies and gentlemen, if the French had said that about the Revolutionary War, there'd be no America. We have allies for a reason, because they help us too. We can't go it alone when other countries gang up against us. We need to use their intelligence, their skills, their armies to help protect our interests. I don't know why this is so complicated. It's not complicated in the least. But I've told you many times before, if you hate America, you hate Israel. If you hate Israel, you hate America. Bernie Sanders hates Israel, and he hates America. Elizabeth Warren hates Israel, and she hates America. Kamala Harris hates Israel, and she hates America. This fusion of the Marxists and the Islamists, I guess it's too complicated for the isolationists to comprehend this. But they don't matter. They don't matter. They were wrong about World War II, and they're wrong now. But that's for another day. Hezbollah was preparing to fire 6,000 missiles into Israel, including targeting Tel Aviv, which is a large city by any standard, about 2.5 million people. It's bigger than Philadelphia. It's bigger than Detroit. It's bigger than Baltimore. It's bigger than most cities other than our top 5 metropolitan areas. Israel sent up 100 jets. 100 jets. To take out as many of these rocket launcher sites, they shoot them out of these tubes as possible. And apparently they destroyed a significant number of them. If they hadn't, there would have been a full-scale war in the Middle East. And I feel comfortable, without any knowledge, inside or otherwise, that if it comes to that, Tehran will be hit. The nuclear sites in Iran will be blown out. Beirut will be hit. Because as we fight our own wars, the only way to win them is to hit them where it counts. I would say to Kamala Harris, you and Biden did this. You and Biden created this war. You and Biden gave sustenance to the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran. You and Biden helped arm Hamas through UNRWA in Iran. You and Biden helped fund Hezbollah. You and Biden helped fund the Houthis. You and Biden have blood on your hands. A whole lot of it. And you say you're concerned about the casualties of the civilians. But you never talk about the Israeli civilians. You never talk about the Lebanese civilians. You never talk about the Yemen civilians. You never talk about the Iranian civilians. You never talk about the Palestinians that Hamas slaughters. You never talk about the Syrian civilians. Isn't this funny? You don't even talk about our civilians on the southern border. You don't even mention their names. You don't even recognize them during your convention. You don't even talk about the 13 brave men and women who died 3 years ago today through your idea of diplomacy and surrender. You have blood on your hands, Kamala. Lots of it. The Democrat Party does not support the state of Israel. We've got 30% of our Navy sitting in and around the Middle East right now. What's it doing? It's not protecting the Red Sea. These oil shipments, it's not protecting them. When Israel took out these missile sites, we released a statement saying, we had nothing to do with it, we had nothing to do with it, we had nothing to do with it. I've got more. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. All right. Elizabeth Warren's on Meet the Depressed. I'm gonna read this to you. On Meet the Depressed, they have Elizabeth Warren, who's a commie. On ABC's This Week, they have Bernie Sanders, who's a commie. On Face the Nation, they have Representative Summer Lee out of Pennsylvania. She's a commie. So the media keep pushing these commies. Bernie Sanders was not only on This Week, he was on MSNBC. They can't get enough of this Stalinist. He literally is a member of the Democratic Socialist Party, not a Democrat. But he's a commie. He's a Stalinist. So he's on MSNBC Sunday. He's on This Week on Sunday. Elizabeth Warren's on Meet the Depressed on Sunday. Summer Lee, she's on Deface the Nation on Sunday. These Sunday shows suck. These network Sunday shows and CNN and MSNBC. It's propaganda all the damn time of the hard left. Now, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris is to the left of them. She served with them. Kamala Harris is to the left of Bernie Sanders, who's a Stalinist, and Elizabeth Warren, who's a Maoist. She's to the left of them. And Elizabeth Warren's on Meet the Depressed, trashing Netanyahu and Israel. Bernie Sanders on This Week, trashing Netanyahu and Israel. Summer Lee, she's on Deface the Nation, trashing Netanyahu and Israel. The Marxist Islamists. I'll be right back. Our Power Hour is next.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. In addition to having the Marxist Islamists, America-hating, Israel-hating Democrats all over the Sunday shows, which tells you where they're coming from. When our guys go on these Sunday shows, they come under attack. Kristen Welker is the host of Meet the Depressed. She's a disaster. She's also an idiot. But they're all idiots, quite frankly. But they feel like they have to make their mark by trashing our guys. So they're not really journalists. They're hitmen and hitwomen. And she's one of them. She's one of them. You know, Meet the Press used to really be the gem of the Sunday shows. They used to be the gem of the Sunday shows. As a kid, I used to watch this Lawrence Spivak. Then over time, Tim was on there. He was quite good, actually, even though he was a Democrat. He was a Moynihan, Scoop Jackson Democrat, not one of these radical Marxists. And now we have Kristen Welker. And there's J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance. All you got to do is think about the way they've treated J.D. Vance and the way they treat Kamala Harris, and you can see for yourself exactly what's going on. I've been thinking about something before I get into this back and forth here. These media corporations, you know, you look at the First Amendment, freedom of the press. We don't have freedom of the press today. We have free corporations that have press platforms, but we don't really have a free press. We have a one-party press, an ideological press, a press that defends the administrative state. We have a press that sabotages our elections, interferes in our elections, sabotages conservatives and Republicans. It's sort of a, as I've said, a Pravda, Al Jazeera state press. Is there anything we can do about this without violating free speech, freedom of the press, and the First Amendment, which must be sacrosanct? And the answer is yes. I've been thinking about it. There's nothing that says that these massive international corporations should be able to consolidate these press platforms and gobble them up, like Comcast with NBC and MSNBC, like Time Warner with CNN. And the list goes on and on and on. In other words, I'm not talking about interfering with the substance of a media platform. I'm talking about ownership of these media platforms. It's not a free press issue. It's not a free press issue to question the consolidation of our media. It's not a free market issue either. It's not a free market issue. We must have competition. Look, we have competition when it comes to, the sale of anything and everything. We ought to have competition when it comes to the media. So the consolidation of these media organizations is very troublesome. Now you might say, what about Fox? But Fox is a media entertainment corporation. It's not what I'm talking about. Fox created Fox. It didn't buy Fox. In other words, Fox Cable was a creation of Rupert Murdoch. CNN was not a creation of Time Warner. NBC was not a creation of Comcast. And the list goes on. It's one thing if you're an entrepreneur and you get wealthy and you get big and you create more and more platforms. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the consolidation by these companies. Maybe they had magazines and newspapers and radios and TV. Now they just start gobbling up more and more and more. That's what I'm talking about. I need to think this through before I make any substantive proposal. I need to think it through, but this is where my thinking is taking me. Meet the Press has become a joke thanks to Kristen Welker. Now, before her, they had Chuck Todd, so you can see low IQ lightweights. Doesn't take much. So there's J.D. Vance. Now, I want you to listen how they talk to J.D. Vance. He owns her, by the way. But how they would never, ever talk about or to Kamala Harris this way, even if she made herself available. Cut 12, go.
Another big topic in this race is immigration. There has been a lot of discussion about Donald Trump's plans for mass deportation. Yeah. According to one estimate, more than 11 million U.S. citizens live in households with mixed immigration status, including more than 5 million children. If you and former President Trump were elected, would you separate families?
By the way, let's stop a minute. Notice how they don't take on the easy cases. They take on this situation. They take on this situation. Now, let me tell you something. You have to draw a line somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. You got to draw a line, or this never ends. Anyway, go ahead.
Deportation effort.
Well, we have to start with the foundational issue here, which is we have 25 million illegal aliens in this country right now because Kamala Harris has refused to do her job.
I have to very quickly, DHS says it's much lower. It's closer to 8 million.
By the way, notice how she interrupts him. Notice how she interrupts him. Go ahead.
I don't know. Where do you get the 25 million from?
Well, I think the 25 million are the people that should have been deported that maybe weren't deported. Plus, you had another 12 to 15 million that have come in since Kamala Harris. Look,
DHS
whatever the number is,
that number for the record.
Excuse me. For as long as I live, we were told we have 11 million illegal aliens. Now, we know that's not a static number, so they lie. But even if we take that number, that's JD's point. Take 11 million and the 10 to 15 million who've come in. But DHS says 5 million. See, when I was growing up, the media didn't just say what DHS says any more than they would say what the Labor Department said about unemployment numbers that were only off by about 1 million. Go ahead.
8 to 10 million.
But I think there are reasons to think that DHS is underestimating. Whatever the real number is, it's way too high, right? It's millions upon millions of illegal immigrants that have come in just since Kamala Harris became the border czar a few years ago.
She was put in charge of the root causes of migration.
Listen to this. See this? She was put in charge of the root causes of migration. That's it. Excuse me, she was vice president of the United States. She's in charge of immigration. She's the number 2. But look how they talk. So they get the talking points from the campaign or vice versa, and the guy can't even finish a thought. Go ahead.
immigration, I would say, Kristen, is that Kamala Harris refuses to do her job as borders are. And let's just start there. I want to answer your question, but I think it's important to sort of sequence this in the right way. So if you want to get control of the illegal immigration problem, you have to stop the bleeding. You have to stop so many people from coming here illegally in the first place. And that means undoing everything that Kamala Harris did practically on day one of the administration. You have to reimpose deportations. You have to stop catch and release. Stop granting asylum to every single person who comes in here and says that they need asylum, and stop granting mass parole. These policies are why we have the immigration crisis that we have. So I think focus on fixing the problem. Before we even fix the problem, we've got to stop the problem from getting worse.
Wow, so radical. She doesn't start at the lawlessness and all the rest of it. Tell me something, Kristen Welker. Tell me how many women have been sold into sex slavery since the border's been open? How many children have been sold into sex slavery since the border's been open? Why don't you get those statistics? I do have some breaking news for you on this issue of immigration. Federal Judge J. Campbell Barker temporarily blocked federal officials from granting legal status to undocumented immigrants married to U.S. citizens under a new Biden administration program, granting a request from 16 Republican-led states, that is 16 attorneys general. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we have something called the law. There is no law. There's no statute. There's no congressional role whatsoever that has authorized Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to wave their magic wands and give hundreds and hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens legal status because they're married to U.S. citizens. It's endless amnesty. That would have been anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million illegal aliens granted amnesty with a snap of two fingers. Flying in almost 1 million illegal aliens, legalizing them and putting them on the track to citizenship is also what they're doing. They have no authority to do that either. Having an app where legal aliens could give information to DHS about when they're going to show up at a port of entry and be brought in and distributed throughout the country. There's no legal authority for that. And so this idea, well, we had a bipartisan bill, which not a single House Republican supported and 3 Senate Republicans supported. The fourth one decided to vote against it. You may have heard of him, Mitch McConnell. This is insanity. She needs the bill, you see, in order to stop herself. And that bipartisan bill, which isn't bipartisan, would institute all of Joe Biden's executive orders, including illegal immigration, 1 to 2 million illegal immigrants every single year. It would enshrine the executive orders, meaning that you would have to have another law passed to undo it, which the Democrats would never allow by filibustering in the Senate. That's why the Republicans didn't vote for it. Now she says, send it to my desk and I'll sign it immediately. Why don't you stop flying in illegal aliens? Just tell them not to do it anymore. Why don't you stop more executive orders giving amnesty and legal status to illegal aliens? DACA. You don't need a law to stop DACA. Obama and Biden, and now Harris and Biden have supported this. This law was not a law. It was an executive order, a rule that they just put out that another federal judge's ruled is unconstitutional. They just do whatever they want in the name of democracy. The name of democracy. So federal judges stop them. But if she wins, they will load up the bench and we won't have any federal judges stopping anything. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Lindsey Graham was on CNN yesterday. Again, watch how they treat him. This would be fake Jake Tapper, self-hater, extraordinary self-hater, grotesquely so. Cut 13, go.
Now, the Trump campaign says Donald Trump is not attending, although the organizers say they expect him to attend.
This is the J6 Award Gala. And, of course, Jake Tapper is very focused on this, not on the price of food. But go ahead.
As an invited guest, do you think it would be a mistake for him to go? And is it a mistake for this event to be taking place at Bedminster at all?
Well, my view of January 6th, I was actually there, that the people who broke into the Capitol and assaulted police officers should go to jail. They committed a crime. There are people
and stop right there. And, Jake, they're not the ones going to Bedminster, are they? Are they, Jake? How come you don't mention that Kamala Harris actually bailed out violent rioters? How about that? How come you didn't mention the insurrection that took place 4 or 5 weeks ago when 15 million voters were disenfranchised in that coup? We got insurrections going on all around us, Jakey. But you're not worried about those. Go ahead.
About the outcome of the 2020 election. I get that. But Vice President Harris tried to raise bail money for people who burned Minneapolis. I didn't like that either. So when it comes to the parties condoning violence, I would say we both should knock it off in that regard. But Vice President Harris went on tweeted out, raise money to get these people out of jail who burnt Minneapolis and killed a police officer. So what I would say is that this election is not going to be decided based on the 2020 outcome.
All right, that's enough. Let me just say this to you folks. Have you heard one criticism from Jake Tapper about Tampon Tim standing back and allowing his city to burn, a police precinct to burn, that insurrection? Have you heard one complaint about that? Anything? Anything? You've heard nothing. Nothing. So for Jake Tapper, it depends who does the violence and when the violence is done. Now, we're not talking about people who attack cops. The cops are endorsing Trump. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people who didn't do anything violent, who were in the Capitol building or on the Capitol grounds, getting prison sentences. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about people who were waved in to the Capitol building. That's what we're talking about. Jake, can you make a distinction or you can't? Of course you can, but you won't. So you have the senator on there and that's the best you can do? Really? Kamala Harris just met with the mayor of Dearbornistan, who talks about the extermination of the Israeli Jews. And he's part of the, well, you know what he is. And her running mate embraces this imam who supports the same thing. I mean, that's the truth. Donald Trump doesn't support anybody who attacked a cop on January 6th. But Kamala Harris has secret meetings with, and her vice presidential candidate openly embraces individuals who embrace the extermination of Jews. Does that bother you, Jake? Moron? Apparently not. And that's what I mean about how Republicans and conservatives are treated on these networks. Kamala Harris doesn't even show up, and they are in full-throated defense of her. Full-throated defense. We have a right to a free press. This isn't whining. This is patriotism to stand up to this, to condemn this, and to demand better. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
You see the Navy is sidelining 17 ships because we don't have enough sailors? It's unbelievable what's happening to this country. We already have a Navy that's well under 300 ships. 30% of our Navy is now in the Middle East. What if China attacks Taiwan right now? I mean, this is just unbelievable. This is what the left does. They deplete us. They deplete us of strategic oil. They deplete us of an industrial base. They deplete our military. They deplete the cops. They deplete our money. This is who they are. You know, this weekend we had two very, very important shows on Life, Liberty, and Levin. And one of the important guests, we have four, they were all important, but one was Joey Piscatelli. Joey Piscatelli, as a young man, young kid, attended a Catholic high school. And he was molested by a priest. You know, there's one guy out there, I don't remember his name, Catholic League, he goes on and on, you're not allowed to say anything. You know, if there was a rabbi who molested a kid, you think I'd be defending any of this? No. I'd be disgusted by it. But I ignore him. Again, his name I don't remember because he's irrelevant, at least to me. So Piscatelli ultimately brought a civil suit and ultimately won, either through a settlement or through a court decision, I don't recall. But I want you to listen to what he has to say, because this directly impacts Kamala Harris, her reputation as a tough prosecutor. And this is one of the reasons why none of this is being on CNN or MSNBC. And to my knowledge, I don't believe any of the news platforms at Fox have used it either. But it was very important for me to talk about this. Very important. I don't believe it was in Media Matters or any of the Sunday shows. No, of course not. But tell me if you think this is relevant. Joey Piscatelli on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Saturday. Cut 14, go. We have with us Joey Piscatelli, who I learned about just by reading old news stories. Joey Piscatelli is a general contractor, but more than that, he's been a leader for 20 years with Survivors Network of those abused by priests. Joey Piscatelli, I can see the Golden Gate Bridge behind you. You're a man from the San Francisco area. You've had experience with Kamala Harris as DA, as Attorney General, as Senator, and so forth. Tell the American people a little bit about your story and about your experience in trying to draw the attention of Kamala Harris.
Well, I first filed a lawsuit against the church for being molested as a child. And the priest who had molested me was a priest from San Francisco. And I went to San Francisco with other victims before Kamala Harris was DA. And we talked to the district attorney named Terrence Hellinon. And Terrence Hellinon had accumulated files, lots of files on sex abusers in the church that he had subpoenaed and gathered through investigations. And he was going after them full force. Kamala Harris beat him in early 2004 as the new district attorney. So the files were in her care then. So we immediately started contacting her, asking her if she'd release the names in those files or release the complaints that were in the files, because there were a number of people who had filed suit against predators, and we wanted them held accountable. She ignored us. And we started protesting at her office, and she kept ignoring us. The press started contacting her and saying, are you going to release these files? What are you doing about these predators, etc.? And she ignored them. This went on for a long time, and my suit was going to court jury trial. So the priest who had molested me was in San Francisco working as a pastor at a church and school with access to children. So I wrote her again and said, I'm actively suing this man for child molestation, and he's with kids now, and so are a number of other clergy and teachers who have molested kids. You need to do something about this. And she kept ignoring it. So they kept the priest in ministry, and a number of us would protest at her office in San Francisco. We passed out flyers, virtually begging her to do something. She kept ignoring us. The press contacted her and said, "Why aren't you releasing these files and these names?" And her answer was that she was protecting the victims. Well, I'm one of those victims, and she wasn't protecting the victims because the victims' names are redacted from the files and the claims. The only names that appear are those that are the predators. She was shielding them in our eyes, and we couldn't understand why. One thing, she wasn't prosecuting them, she wasn't investigating them, she wasn't releasing their names, and she kept shielding them, and we couldn't understand that.
And nobody can understand that. And she won't be questioned about it at any of the debates either, because the moderators won't do it. Will they? You know, the job of the press is to expose all of this, to challenge the candidates, to question them. The problem is they've been all over Trump. They've lied about Trump. They've smeared Trump. They've character assassinated Trump. They've gone after some things in his background, some of the things that are factual. He's dealt with it. He's had to deal with it over and over again. But her, she doesn't have to address anything. Now, this is a scandal. This is a scandal, whether some people like it or not. It's a scandal, and I'm not covering up pedophilia. I don't care who does it. So here you have pedophilia. Here you have victims. Here you have victims who bring lawsuits, who are ready to put everything on the line, who are willing to prove their cases. And Kamala Harris blows them off. Jake Tapper doesn't ask any questions about that. Kirsten Welker doesn't ask any questions about that. None. John Carl doesn't ask any questions about this. George Stephanopoulos covers it with a pillow, smothers it. In fact, none of the media have asked about this. None of the media have done a report on this. None of the media have interviewed Joey Piscatelli. I did. Nobody else. Why? Media everywhere have ignored it. Why? People I know in the media. Why? Why are they ignoring this? You don't have to run my clips. Talk to them yourself. Seems to me this is very important. She's the big prosecutor, and she should answer for this. Crickets everywhere. Crickets everywhere. Pretty shocking, don't you think? It's disgusting. She said at the convention, and I don't doubt this, that her friend, I think it was Wanda, that the reason she got into the business of being a prosecutor is because Wanda was abused by her stepfather. But she didn't mention Joe Piscatelli or the scores of others. Well, she was a prosecutor who could have done something about this. And he points out after the statute of limitations ran, they went back and said, please give us the files. You heard him. Because we're going to bring civil suits because you didn't do anything. And she wouldn't give them the files. She lied. Well, we don't want to reveal the victims. As he pointed out, they were redacted. They were blocked out. And the prosecutor who she defeated for DA, he was ready to go. Piscatelli said he was ready to go 100 miles an hour. She killed it. Now, it seems to me this is worth being pursued by Fake Tapper, by Kristen Welker, by John Carl, by Maggot Haberman, by all the other losers. But they won't. They're going to protect her, Kamala. Kamala says now she doesn't want to have the debate rules that Biden had, that Trump agreed to. Now she wants to change them. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Tomorrow as I said, I'm heading to Mar-a-Lago. I'm going to be interviewing President Trump. I'm interviewing him for both Saturday and Sunday's Life, Liberty, and Levin this Labor Day weekend. So be sure to set your DVRs. Many of you will be traveling, just having a lot of fun. I don't blame you. Set your DVRs, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. Kick their ass. Our brothers and sisters in Israel. That's right. Kill the terrorists. And you, my fellow Americans, God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.